So welcome everybody, and those that are here and those who are watching online later on, to Organizing Your Busy Schedules. So I want to introduce to you Leanna Quanake. She has a social working background. She's been a nanny for a number of years, and she's also one of the managers here at the Energy Shack Juice Bar, focused on events planning. And last week we had part one and we talked about picky eaters, and there's something incredible about being able to have a child or a family member or even yourself be extremely healthy, making healthy choices, and also becoming accountable, responsible, and organized. And so you're going to see that when you feel like your child has eaten a wonderful breakfast willingly, your child is going to school with a lunch that's healthy, makes you feel good, and they're agreeing and know they're going to eat it. They're also not forgetting their library book. They've also picked their clothes out the night before. Leanne's going to go through all of that. And when those two come together, now you can deal with the life stresses that really come with all that the world throws at us these days. So last week we talked simply about being picky eaters, and I'm just going to share just a couple points from this and give the time over to Leanne. But for those who missed it, we were just talking that you have a nutrient need in your body. So it's not okay that we keep compromising on, oh, well, they're just picky or they don't have to, because then you're not going to get your checklist of nutrients filled up. So it actually is vitally important that if you want to be a healthy adult, it starts as being a healthy child. And all of those B vitamins, magnesium, iron, calcium, and 90% of those nutrients come from our fruits and vegetables, and mostly vegetables. So it does matter that your child is making healthy choices. A wide variety of foods and different colors is what matters, and water should be the drink of choice. And so we just basically talked about kids being picky eaters because they choose to be, and we enable them. And we are picky eaters because nobody's forcing us to make those choices. But we really need to focus on making sure we are making healthy choices. And so we just talked about pairing likes with dislikes. We talked about getting kids involved in the kitchen and even the grocery shopping. We talked about making sure that they're always trying a healthy food so that you're retraining their palate. So there was a lot of good information in there, and I hope that you would be willing to just go back on our YouTube page once it's up, and we can simply just to watch through that, because there was lots of good information. And so at this time, I don't know, Leanne, if you can have your camera on, but at this time, I just want to introduce to you Leanna Quanake. She comes with over 20 years of experience in working with children, and not just her own. She has done that professionally. And Leanne has also had incredible success at being able to help kids of all ages. Leanne also works with people with disabilities. So whether they have, they're autistic, whether they're mute, any kind of learning disorders, Leanne brings incredible tools to the table that help to get them organized, accountable, responsible. So I'm going to turn it over to Leanne. And like I said, put your questions in the chat if you have any. But this is a session you're going to want to take notes on.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sure can.
Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Well, welcome to a parenting guide to organizing our busy schedule. So I started working with these thoughts of how to, de-stress my day. I was a nanny for 10 years. And I had 6 children, 6 girls I was watching. And so I was very overwhelmed. And so I started to really jot down helpful tools and rules. And working with Carolyn, we came up with giving you tools and rules to turn your stresses into success. And that she talked about really helps with the food, picky eaters and implementing healthy choices for children. But it also helps with teaching our children how to be sharp arrows, okay? Accountable, responsible, and organized. And so we're going to start by just telling you a little bit about how, I started this and I came up with these ideas. And it started as a parent and a nanny. I was a nanny when I first really started implementing these. I learned that when I didn't know how to do something, I needed to ask for help. So one of the biggest things in my life was that I was surrounded by really wonderful women at our church, that my kids, we all had children around the same ages. When I was a nanny, I brought the kids with me to different swimming and skating and different activities, and I talked to other parents. And that was one of the really helpful tools for me, is that I really needed to talk to other people to see what worked and what didn't, and then take those ideas and help implement them in my life to see, what stuck and what didn't stick really well in my situation and in my life. So I really did ask a lot of parents what they did to help them when they're feeling really overwhelmed, especially in the morning routines when I'm trying to get these kids off to school. Because the truth is, I was a nanny and I was getting paid to make sure that these children were off to a great start, right? They were at school on time. They had all the things that they needed. They got home, they had snack, they had dinner, they were in bed on time. And so that was my job. And I had to figure out how to do that and how to navigate through those times. So I was incredibly overwhelmed. I was very young. I was a young mother and I was just trying to figure this out. And so as a parent, these are one of the things that I noticed I wasn't alone in. And so one of the things that everybody seemed to tell me is, you have to learn to multitask. That's what moms do, is that we learn to multitask. Just 1 second here.
So I'll tell you from, while Leanne's just figuring out some technical issues there. So can anybody see her screen? Because I can't see her screen. So maybe it's just me, but. Okay, so if you can see her screen, let us know. Otherwise, she'll just try to get that up. But that is definitely, as Leanne will explain, is that multitasking appears to be something that we should be able to do naturally, but it's actually an unnatural ability for most of humanity. And we can say, what are you talking about? I multitask all the time, but as Leanne will share, do you do each of those jobs well? Are you ready, Leanne?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't, my screen wouldn't let me go back. So when you multitask, one of the things, so I tried to do this. So I was a nanny and I tried to really figure out how to multitask and how to get everything done in such a short amount of time. And that really was bedtime and for me, nap time and in the morning. And so what I noticed was I was doing so many things that my food was burning. That happened quite often, where I'm just not able to focus because I'm trying to get them ready, and now I've burnt pancakes like 4 times already. Someone gets hurt. The kids are running around. I'm trying to figure out where everything is, and then they're arguing and fighting, and someone's getting hurt because my attention can't be everywhere. Something gets broken. Hopefully it's not one of the children's arms, but it was just that there were so many things that were falling apart while I was multitasking. And the biggest one for me is that when I finally got out the door, I turn around to the house and I've left this huge, massive mess where it looked like a tornado has just come through my house. And I just felt overwhelmed. Like now I have to drop them to school and come back and clean this all up. The other thing I noticed is that I would hear a lot, "You're not paying attention to me," or can you sit with me, or can you read with me, or can you play with me? And I would always answer, "Not right now. I don't have the time," or "after I do this." And so that really hurt me every time I ended up saying that, but it was something I constantly said. And I felt like this multitasking is not working for me when it comes to de-stressing my everyday situation. And so one of the things that um, I learned was that for me as a stay-at-home mom, I had 3 to 4 high stress periods. And that is when you have so many things to do in such a short amount of time. And so, you know, being a nanny, I had about 3 to 4 high stress periods. When I was a working mom and my kids went off to school and I went off to work, I had about 1 or 2, which was at the beginning of the morning when I'm trying to get them off to school or daycare, and in the evening when I'm trying to, you know, cook dinner and get them through, you know, extracurricular activities and also make it to bed. So I had about 1 to 2 high stress periods in my day. So it looks different for everybody, but that's really how I had to focus and really try to say, okay, when do I have a high stress period? And now that I know these are my high stress periods, now I can break it down. So that's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about, when is your high stress period in your day? And identifying those are half the battle. Okay, so think about if you have, you know, 3 to 4 or 1 to 2. And so we're going to give you some tools and rules to turn those stresses into success. And the way we do that is by teaching your children how to be accountable, responsible, and organized. And I just call that a sharp arrow, because we're going to give this back to the kids. So one of the really wonderful things after so many years of nannying, I nannied for 10 years. One of the things that the parent would come and tell me after so many years, I mean, their kids are in their 20s, and they would say, you know what? It was life changing. You know, at the beginning, it was just like, you know, I just cared that they were off to school on time or at their swimming lesson on time. That's really all I cared about. But then I realized after that you were really teaching them how to be responsible and accountable and organized. And that really helped them throughout their life in college and university. And so that's what I want to give back. I want to take our stress away, but in that time, we're teaching our children. And so it's a win-win here. So here we have what we might see as like our morning routine. So this might look familiar. We're just going to break it down. You wake up, you do your bathroom routine, you get dressed, breakfast, you might have chores. Maybe somebody has to walk a dog or feed the cat, maybe unload or load the dishwasher. So you do all the chores, you pack your lunch. Some people do their homework in the morning. I've worked with many families, and that is their thing, is early in the morning, they do their homework. And then you get your outdoor clothes on and you're ready for school. But it doesn't look that simple. It kind of looks chaotic and messy. There's a little bit of maybe raising our voices, hurry up, let's go, that it's, you know, close to the time, that type of thing, to get the school bus, or I have to drive you, I have to get off to school. So these are some of the things that might happen in the morning. You can always look at it and say, oh, I even have more than that. So this happens. So let's put some tools in place in our morning. Okay, let's start with, when we look at our morning routines, we put our lunch and our homework. So one of the things that helped me a lot is to understand that I couldn't start with my morning routine and help my life out by de-stressing unless I targeted my evening routine. Because once I really focused on what I need to do for the evening, my morning routine started becoming so much simpler. Does that make sense to everyone? We have to focus on our evening routines to make our morning routines so seamless. And that's where we're teaching our children how to be organized and how to be accountable. Okay. And so we're going to work through this. So it says here, because we're organizing our evening, it helps getting all of our children really on board with, you know, what time they get home from school, all of this stuff. Our evening routine becomes incredibly, incredibly important. Okay. So we have to figure out when they get home. What they need to do is read their agenda or look at, like, when they're at daycare, most of daycares provide like a month calendar. And so when you get that calendar, you're going to work with your children, because they're young at daycare, to try to break down all the things that they need to do. So it's a practice, it's a habit that you're going to look at that calendar with them. Mom and dad are not going to do it alone. And you're going to get your children to get like a really big calendar. My calendar is in my kitchen, and it's like a peel and stick, and it is life size, so that my little ones were able to write things in it. Okay. And so you're going to get them to write those things in. So when they're at school, they get agendas. And I think almost every single school has an agenda. And each day they have written for themselves, or the teacher will write all the things that need to be done. So when they get home, they're going to do it themselves with your guidance, and they're going to start putting their stuff on the calendar. So it's library day on every other Tuesday. It's gym day every other Thursday. It's track and field meet every morning on Monday. They're going to start writing those in. And believe it or not, all my children, my son, when he was in daycare, he was able to do this on the calendar. It took a little bit of practice, but he was starting to spell library day. He was starting to spell gym. He was starting to spell trip. And he was just starting to write those on the calendar. So children, when your children get home, they're responsible. That's their job, is to come home, open up their agenda or calendar, and work with you on getting all those dates onto the calendar. Okay. So the rule is that that's what they need to do when they get home. And the tool is the calendar. So I just do this with every single thing, and it just breaks down. So when you get home, you're working on your homework, right? So the rule is you complete your homework while it's fresh in your mind. That's one of the things that my kids, and when I was nannying, they would just play, and then I'd say it's homework time, and they don't want to do their homework. So while it's fresh in their mind, while they came home from school, you can give them a little snack or something to drink, and they go right into, getting those stuff on the calendar and right into getting their homework done. So getting everything they need ready for their homework. And so what that looked like for me is that before school started, my kids, pick out all their stuff that they need for school, but we also keep extra, and that's for just their homework. And so always have like pencils, highlighters, whatever that case is, at home for them. And most of us have those extra stuff for our kids to be able to do their homework. And so their job is, once everything's on their calendar and they read their agenda, they know what homework is to be done. And so if it's math, they maybe need to pull out their multiplication chart. If it's reading log, they know to take out that reading log and a couple books. So all of this is written in their agenda, and they're going to start organizing themselves to sit down and get all their tools they need, pencils, erasers, all that, to their table or wherever it is. So one of the tools that we have is that it's a quiet place, right? So it's normally the same place is a really good idea. Studies show that when you have a workspace that is the same place, and it's not like today we're working at the kitchen table, but tomorrow we're working the dining room table, and the next day we're working in the basement. When we have the same place, it's like, okay, yes, I know now my brain can focus. It's time to work. And a rule, when I had the 6 kids, it was very hard at the beginning, but then everybody started understanding that it was a rule and we had to abide by that rule. And there's no TV, there's no music, and there's quiet activities for the little ones. And that really just sets the tone that this is homework time, and we get it down faster when we focus on solely our homework, right? So no one's playing piano, no one's watching TV, no one's like blasting music and dancing around. We're just doing quiet puzzle activities while the bigger kids are doing their homework. The second thing is that for our night before rules, we start picking out or packing our lunch and our snacks for the next day. So we're not making it in the morning or just guessing early in the morning, what is it that we're going to have for lunch? Because that takes a lot of time. And so we're packing our lunch. If your children like their hot lunch or whatever, then you're packing that dinner and you're saying, okay, this is what's going to go in the thermos. Let's get out the thermos onto the counter. We have all the snacks ready so that it's easy to just heat it up in a pot or however you want to heat it up, warm up your thermos, put it in, and that's all you have to do, because our snacks and everything is already cut up, and get them involved in it. Because one of the things Carolyn talks about is when children are involved in cooking or preparing something, they're more apt to eat it, right? Because they're excited that they made these things. And so you're picking out all of your lunch and packing getting it all packed up. Sometimes my son makes his sandwich and then puts it in the fridge and everything's ready. So in the morning, he just grabs out his whole entire lunch bag and puts that in his bag. And, sometimes he'll come home and be like, oh, I didn't like this and this. I'm like, you made it. And he's like, I did make it. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit better. So, getting them involved, that it's their responsibility. I'm here to guide and I'm here to be there, but really getting them to be part of that really puts the onus also on them. And I don't feel so stressed to always say, oh, I'll do better. Oh, I'll do this better, and try to think about all the different ways I can do this. We're a team. We're working together. And so the other thing is that don't forget to talk about breakfast the night before. So that's a big one. Is when I work with families, breakfast is a big thing, because in the morning they don't want to eat and then they're off to school. And so that should be your most important meal, is your breakfast, right? And Carolyn talks about that a lot. And so it starts at the young age. So when we talk the night before about how important breakfast is, we say, like, what do you want for breakfast? Like, let's think of, and you'll have a little more time, because you'll see, because, your mornings are not going to be so chaotic. So you can make pancakes ahead of time. You can make them in the evening with them if you wanted to. Or you might have time to make them in the morning because you've already planned that out with them. And so you want to talk about breakfast and see if maybe you can prepare, if it's chia, maybe you soak that the night before. Just different things that you can try to eliminate that night in the evening, so it's not so hectic in the morning. And the one rule I have for this is, once you've decided, once it's on my board, because I have my kitchen magnet, and my son has to write what he's having for lunch, what he's having for snack, all the lists, and what he's going to have for breakfast. And so once we've decided, once you've made it, you're not waking up in the morning and saying, I know I made the sandwich, but actually, can I have, fried rice instead? No, that's not an option, but it's a great idea to put it on the list, and maybe that's something you can have tomorrow. So once they've had that conversation, once you've picked it, once you've decided, we're not changing it. And if you have picky eaters, which, 2 of the kids that I watched as a nanny, they were incredibly sensitive palate. What we did was we had a list of things on the fridge that they could choose from, that they really seemed to like a lot. And those were the ones we went to if they couldn't think about all the different ideas. So have a list of things that are options for them, and that helps. And once they like something for dinner, say, oh, hey, do you want to put it to our option board of one of the things you can have for lunch? The next thing we're going to go to for the night before is the weather. This is probably one of my most favorite ones because of really children that really have like high sensitivity is putting on clothing. So as a nanny for many years and a preschool teacher, there are many children that have sensitivities to clothing. So something itches, maybe the sock line bothers their toes, maybe when they wear tights, it bothers them, the feeling of the pants touching them, rubbing on them. So they have high sensitivity. So this idea of checking the weather the night before and figuring out what you're going to wear according to the weather is so important, because in the morning, many families feel so overwhelmed because your kids are now picking and choosing what they're going to wear. And then they get to school and it's raining and they thought, oh, well, it was sunny in the morning. I didn't know it was going to rain. Well, it was forecast to rain, but we never checked the weather. So we really need to stress checking the weather the night before. And so this is a really great way for them to learn weather. And my son really, and so did my two daughters, they really liked this idea of checking the weather. They got to see on the map what it looked like, how the weather changed throughout the day. And, you know, maybe it was exciting that they're going to be home when it just started to rain, so it could be sunny all day and they didn't have to bring an umbrella. Just getting them really involved in looking at the weather and seeing what the weather looks like. And then they start looking at all the different words that are used when looking at weather, like precipitation and what the UV rays is. And they started asking questions and really looking into that. So it's a great teaching tool, checking the weather. But the rule is once they check the weather, they're picking out their clothes the night before. So this is what they're going to do. You're going to pull out all this stuff. So for younger children, if their closet is really high up, try to find ways that they can start being more independent, maybe have different shelvings for them or a step stool. This is important for them to feel like they're responsible and they can pick out their own clothing. So this is a really great tool and rule to have. One of the other rules we have with picking out clothing, if you can guess, is once you've picked it out, you cannot change it. And so for my sensitive children that have high sensitive, needs, is you try it on. Put it on, see if you like it, walk around, dance, see if that feels uncomfortable. If it does, then switch it and change and let's pick something else. And we know this is a no, right? And so have them, especially our younger one, have them try it on. I mean, I have an 18 and 20-year-old, the same thing. Sometimes they want to try it on, see if they like it, see if it's like something that's comfortable. And then, yes, I'm choosing that, or forget it, I'm not going to choose it. My kids still do this. So it's really important to have them try this on. How does it feel? Is it uncomfortable? Is it itchy? Maybe you outgrew it. Maybe it's just not appropriate anymore. So this is a really good rule. Try it on once you've picked it, once everything's okay. Guess what? In the morning, that is what we're wearing. So these are some of the rules and tools we have for our evening. And so now our evening rules start to continue because, again, I find that once I eliminate all these things in the evening, my mornings are super smooth. So chores get done. For my house, it might work differently for you, but for me and for the family I watched, and for many families, homework is first. That's really important. And then chores come after. Because I just want to get the homework done while it's fresh in their mind, while they still remember what their teachers told them. After all their night before rules are completed, then they go to their chores, right? Whether it's, unload the dishwasher, sweep, take out the trash, those are done before they go to bed for sure, but that's not the number one priority over homework. And then the next rule is, you know, we talked about laying out your clothing, getting all that done, and not changing our mind once that's all packed away, okay? We're going to go over to packing your homework. So once they've done all their homework, instead of just leaving it there, one of the things that was a really high stress period in the morning is that when we would ready to leave, the kids I was watching would say, "Oh, I can't find my textbook." And we would stop at the front door and we're get ready to leave. And now we're all taking off our shoes and running and finding this math textbook. And this happened often where they'd say, "Oh, I forgot it's library day." And they would run around looking for this library book. So everything that's on that they wrote on that agenda for the night before in that morning, when I do my homework the night before, they're putting it in their backpack. So once homework is done, mom and dad have signed, or grandparents, that goes in my backpack. I don't worry about it anymore. I look on my calendar and I say, "Oh, I wrote that it's library day." Well, I go get my library to return it. You know, it's gym day. I make sure that, you know, "Hey mom, can you help me? I have to, you know, wash my gym shorts," right? So I'm not saying, "Where's my gym shorts?" Well, I need them this morning. It's already done. I've already packed it. Everything's done. Everything's organized. Everything I need is in my backpack and it's at the front door ready to go. The one of the things that really helped me out is having a place for a backpack. So for me, that was helpful is we leave by the front door. So I have a little chair, like a little couch that's right by my door, and that's where the backpack goes. And so he never is looking for his backpack. He knows he's always puts it there. That's where he puts his stuff. And if there's, you know, something me and my husband have to sign, we never have to look for it. Even if he's gone to bed, we will sign his work and put it in there if that's the case. And so my job is to sign off on homework or off on trip forms, and his job is to make sure he hands those to me and it's in his bag. Now, this is another really great rule that I found that was really helpful, is to always have an alarm clock. And this alarm clock should never be like a device. It should never be a tablet. It should never be a cell phone. It should never be a laptop. This should never be those things, because that we shouldn't be sleeping with them. So those things should be outside of a room anyway. And let's go back to old school, like alarm clocks. This is helpful. It helps them learn how to set an alarm clock. It helps them learn to read time at a young age. And it keeps them safe, right? We don't want cell phones or laptops or anything in their room while they're sleeping. So that's really important. And another really great thing about this is that they're learning to wake up, and I am not running back and forth making sure everybody is waking up. So we establish what time does everybody need. So if I have 3 kids and one takes longer than another, we have a family meeting. We talk about this and we say, "Okay, well, you know, your time to catch the bus is at 8:30, but you take about an hour and a half. So let's set your alarm, you know, much earlier than so and so." And so go on, you know, you go through that with each one of your children, because they all might leave at different times, or they just take different times to get ready. And so you would be able to, you know, figure that out with your kids. And so we set an alarm clock with them initially with the younger ones, but obviously the older ones can do that. But we set an alarm clock to wake up for that specific time that it takes them. And it's funny because when we do these seminars for adults, most people don't realize how long it actually takes you to get ready. So we say, "Oh yeah, I can be ready in 15 minutes," but they actually take about 45 minutes to get out the door. So let's be realistic. Let's talk about realistic goals for them so that they're not feeling rushed and that they can do everything they need to do, and have a really good start for the morning. So we set that alarm clock, and the rule is Once it goes off, we're not going back to bed, right? We're not turning it off and putting snooze and hope for the best. And the way I did that with my kids is there was always a consequence if they happened to sleep in, turn off the alarm clock, you know, maybe they lost TV for the week or something like that. So it was a real strict rule for us, like you're not sleeping in, you're not ignoring that alarm clock. And so that's a really, really, really helpful rule. So when we start to implement healthy rules and have very helpful tools in place, we're teaching our children how to be accountable, responsible, and organized. And as you can see, the load is starting to come off of the parents and starting to see, oh, you know what? I can give more responsibility to my children. Now, I bet you can start imagining how your mornings might start to look a little less hectic. When we give our children a little more responsibility, we're not only teaching them how to be, you know, responsible, but we're teaching them how to be independent, how to be accountable, how to be organized, right? We're teaching them so many different things. And we'll get to that in the end of how many things we're actually starting to teach our children by, you know, teaching them how to really participate in our evening and our morning routines. So now we're looking at our morning routines here. When the alarm goes off, we're getting up, right? So we've established that. So the alarm goes off, your children get up. I always get up before my kids just to make sure that, you know, everyone's following what they're supposed to do, but I'm not the one that's being the sergeant knocking on everyone's door saying, get up, it's time to get up, let's go. That's not helpful. And that doesn't keep them accountable either. The one thing I didn't mention is I find it easier. You don't have to, but I always stick with an alarm clock that is battery operated because in a blackout, it's still going to work. The only difference is that I just have to make sure my, you know, especially with the younger ones, to just say, you know, check your alarm clock, make sure it's working. Obviously, my older ones, they do that. But for my younger one, I'm always saying, make sure your alarm clock is working before you go to bed, right? Because it's battery operated. And that just helps when there's a blackout. They're still getting up for school. Now, this is really an important morning routine and rule is that you don't come for breakfast until all your bathroom checklist, all your bedroom checklist is all done. So my son has a bedroom checklist and then he has a bathroom checklist and all the things that need to be done. So whatever that looks like for you. Some take a shower in the morning, some take a shower in the evening, some do both. So whatever you have for your morning, brush your teeth, comb your hair, wash your face, whatever your bathroom routine is that your children is going to make with you, that's what goes up. But we're not coming down for breakfast or coming for breakfast until all those things are done. Your morning routine in your bedroom, getting dressed, maybe you do a devotional, whatever that case is, you establish which one is first with them and then as they follow. So my son does his morning in his bedroom routine first, and then he goes to the bathroom, does all that, and then comes down for breakfast. And this eliminates the, oh, I have to go upstairs to get my sweater. Oh, I have to go upstairs to get my sock. Oh, I forgot my library or my whatever that I wanted to bring that I left upstairs, right? So all of these stop to eliminate because we're going through all the checklists in the morning and we're saying, okay, put on my sock, put on my sweater, grab my you know, my sweater vest or whatever the case is. I've had the list for them. And now we're in the bathroom, we're brushing our teeth and whatever. No one's coming down and saying, go back upstairs and brush your hair, right? That's not what we're doing because we've established you do everything before and then you come for breakfast. And sometimes they might need guidance. So sometimes they're, you know, half asleep and they're going through the motions of doing their checklist. And that's what we're there for. And they've come down and we say, we're not having breakfast yet. It looks like you haven't finished your bathroom routine. And that's it. That's all I do. And then they go right upstairs and I you know, follow your bathroom routine and you'll get everything done and then come down for breakfast. And so that happens too, right? We're all learning, and sometimes we also get in the mode of routine, and so we need gentle reminders. And then again, whatever we picked for breakfast, that is what we're having. And so it makes more time. Like I have so much time in the morning to make a healthy breakfast with them. They can come and join, and I don't feel overwhelmed because we don't have a lot of things to do in the morning. Literally, we have breakfast in our morning bathroom and getting dressed routine. And if they have their lunch that they have to heat up or whatever on the stove, they do that as well. Sometimes you might be able to already have your lunch packed in the fridge and they just have to grab that and go. But other times they might need your help by maybe heating up the thermos and heating up their night before, like their leftovers for their lunch. And so we're going to do that in the morning. And then some of us have chores. So some of the children, it's really great to have chores, implementing chores. So maybe it's load the dishwasher or feed the cat, whatever the case is. This you put your chores and you're ready for your day. So now we've established that there needs to be a morning routine and an evening routine. And we're learning now, well, your children are learning now how to tell time, which is a big thing for, beginning school agers, and how to read simple words that go on a calendar, right? So whether it's trip or library day or, beginning of fall, whatever it is, they're starting to read and recognize words. They're saying, oh yeah, I've written that one before. Oh, I know how to spell that one. They're starting to know the months and days of the week, right? So they're writing out these calendars, right? They're putting the numbers 1 to 30 or 31. They're doing Monday to Thursday. There's Monday to Friday. They're writing it out, and at the top of most calendars, they have a little empty space for you to put the months of the year, and they're learning how to spell those out. The fun thing about the younger ones is they're starting to learn how to count from 1 to 31 and be able to identify them and write them. And it's really great to see, a preschooler saying, can you show me 11? Let's find 13 and write, field trip. And they're able to do it really quickly because this is a regular routine. Understanding the weather, understanding how to dress appropriate for the weather, because that's a big one for schools. Helping to cook and prepare food, and organizing a healthy, helpful work environment, right? This will go on for a long time for them. All these things, when you look at it, are, obviously the learning to spell and all that with college and university students is not, I hope they know how to do that, but is really learning how to be organized with their agendas, really starting to understand how to jot things down, how to really get organized, because this helps when you're all the way to high school. You still have agendas, you still have logbooks, you still have things that you have to be accountable for. And this really helps teach your children how to organize their day, what to write, what goes before, what is going to happen tomorrow or in a couple of days from now. And so it really helps them to focus and understand, to be more organized. So one of the things that when I first started doing this, I thought it was just going to be so simple. We get it and everybody knows how to do it, right? But that's not always the case. Life changes. Sometimes, my son's school, they changed their times frames from what time they close, what time they start to what time they end the following year. And so we had to adapt to that. We had to change things out to make this work for us again. Sometimes, you're adding extracurricular activities to the mix. And so you have to add and implement those into their life. And sometimes your children's personality changes. And so maybe they never used to sleep in, but all of a sudden they're starting to sleep in. So you're just going to have those helpful talks with them and try to get them right back on board of, you know, what's working, what's not working, and let's try to put some helpful tools and rules in place. And that's what I want everyone to just remember. Whenever we're implementing some type of change, help that with giving some rules and tools to make those stressful situations successful ones. And that is how we're going to teach our children how to be accountable, responsible, and organized.
Thank you, Leanne. That was amazing, even though I've heard this a few times in our 40 something years of, actually, I'd say 25 years of being adults. But yeah, just amazing. And you know, I can see some of the people listening that you don't have any young children, but whenever I hear Leanne tell, you know, do this seminar, especially when she says, you know, how much time does it take you to get ready? You might say it takes 15 minutes, but really it's 45. It's just a reminder for me that I need to be more realistic with my own time, because I love to, with other people, how long will it take you to get here? Oh, an hour. No, it won't. Let's be real. Let's be real with our time. It's going to take you like 45 minutes before you even leave the house, and you're like 45 minutes away. But you know, this speaks volumes because you know, giving false expectations, not being organized with our time, not being realistic. So these are not just, you know, you choosing the night before what you're taking to work so you don't buy takeout. So this is not just, oh, well, I don't have any children, so this isn't good for me, but I'll sure pass it on to, you know, my daughter or my neighbor. But we have to also be prepared for the next day. We should also check the weather. You know, is it going to snow tomorrow? Do I need that extra time because I have to shovel my car out of the driveway or get up a little bit earlier? So this is important. Plugging our cell phones in another room and having a different kind of an alarm clock is also important. So although she's focused, and these seminars have been focused on parents with young children, I think for all of us, we need to just take that temperature check on the different areas of our life that we are going into constantly unprepared. Right? So I think that's very important. So does anybody have any questions? Leanne, that was just fantastic information. If you do have questions, I know this is kind of straightforward, and we normally talk about nutrition, but this is really part of it, because if you're losing your mind every day, all the green vegetables in the world are not going to help you. Yeah, so it's important. And I know for me, as I said, when Leanne and I were first raising our kids, she'd call me and she's like, oh, I can't get my child to eat their vegetables. I'm like, oh, try this and try that. She's like, oh, it works. That's so great. And I'm just like, listen, I'm going to lose my mind if one more morning, like, you know, my daughter forgets her lunch, like I'm going to lose it. And she's like, why is that your responsibility? Didn't you just say it's her lunch? I'm like, I know, but I didn't put it in her backpack. You know, that just sounds so crazy. Why is your child getting off the bus and saying, Mom, you forgot to pack my library book? Whose library book is it? But we don't do that. We're like, oh, I forgot the library book. But guess what? You're not in grade 5. You're running a household and possibly working as well. So let's teach our kids to be accountable, and then they feel responsible, and then they get off the bus and say, oh, you know, when you told me to do my night before rules, I didn't do it right and I forgot my library book. Yeah, so you're enabling them and you're creating a tool to help them be accountable. You're not saying, listen, it's your library book, make sure you pack it. You need to help them learn how to remember to pack it, how to get that checklist going, because those kinds of skills don't come naturally to everybody. Some children were born with a checklist in their brain, but that's a very small population. Anyway, So Leanne, thank you again for sharing your time with us. Unless anybody has questions, I would say good night and be that sharp arrow for you and teach your children how to do likewise. Good night, everyone.